through the gates into the temple and make your way towards the jeweled scabbard. Hidden inside the temple are temple guards, assigned to protect 3 specific rooms. You can trade your pendant for an extra life and go on, but if you're caught without a pendant, you'll be taken out of the temple. The doors of the temple will instantly unlock, and the temple guards will vanish. Return through the gates with the jeweled scabbard of Sforza in 3 minutes, and you will both be handsomely rewarded. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Welcome to Splat Attack, a podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your Silver Monkey Guardian, Brett.
And I'm your Pit of Despair survivor, Alex. And Brett!
Yes, Alex?
We've been to Olmec's Hidden Temple many times before throughout our podcast. What makes our visit in the deep jungle so special this time around?
Well, you know, I'm feeling a little bit sentimental because after 30 years of Legends of the Hidden Temple kids crossing the moat, answering historical trivia questions, and yelling at their TV during temple runs, it just felt right to return to this special place once more and really dig deep into what made this one of the most, if not the most, engaging Nickelodeon game shows to ever exist. Happy anniversary, Legends crew!
I can't wait to get into this temple. But Legends has proven time and time again that you can mix a little education, exercise, a good heavy dose of 90s nostalgia to make a winning formula in a 90s Nick show. And even though Legends is not my absolute favorite Nick game show, Figure It Out is mine, Legends is up there, and I definitely can understand why people, especially 90s Nick fans, consider this to be the epitome of 90s Nick game shows ever. It's a great show.
Enough chit-chat, Alex and Brett. I got a show to run.
Whoa,
Oh,
Kirk
Jesus.
Fogg,
Sorry.
of all people. Sorry, yeah. I forgot you were here.
you do it, man.
You're the boss. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
So, before we take a walk down memory lane around the temple, Olmec, who's going to be joining us today?
We have Matt and Malcolm of the Red Jaguars. Yay! We also have Kristen Kirkfleet / Ross of the Red Jaguars as well. Yay! We've got Josh of the Blue Barracudas. Josh Siniscalo. Well, we don't have any green monkeys, orange iguanas, or purple parrots here, so we'll just skip them and edit some generic kids in later.
Actually, I was a green monkey on the first version of the show, so you can have a green monkey and a blue barracuda.
Okay, we'll count it. We'll count it. We also have Josh as a green monkey. Yay! Just not wearing the shirt.
It's right here.
It's behind. It's right there.
Yeah, the shirt's on as well. Close enough. And last but not least, we have Nick Borey, Jen Ayers, and John Sajeski on the Silver Snakes. Woo! Yay!
Now, if I'm not mistaken, they're not the only guests that we've got. They are our contestants, but what other what other guests do we have?
Well, we also have the distinguished guests. We have Legends expert and fan Carl DeCourt joining us today. Yay!
Yay!
We have David Jordan, who did a lot of the prop work for Legends of the Hidden Temple, who is also on our Wienerville 30th anniversary. And last but not least, we have Mike Lupia, who is a temple guard from season 3 of Legends of the Hidden Temple. Woo! You look a lot different without your mask, Mike.
Yeah, for the better.
Less dramatic.
Did you like
hair
scaring
then,
the
too.
kids, Mike?
Sorry about the nightmare, so I apologize.
That's okay. Every 90s kid has a few they have to unpack.
I'm sure you had a thrill scaring the kids. I'm sure.
Well, you know, now that everyone's introduced and we're all set to tackle the temple, let's just dive in with some questions for y'all to warm things up. What do you guys remember most fondly about being on the show?
I love seeing the set for the first time in real life. after seeing it on season 1, forgive me, I'm getting over a cold too. Nick just realized I'm contagious.
Oh no.
So no, yeah, it was just neat seeing how different it looked in real life and seeing the Nickelodeon tour up in the window and all that, seeing it from a backstage perspective versus worrying about, of course you wanted to go well, but just being on the set was so cool for a kid back then.
I bet. It looked very larger in life from the behind the scenes footage I've seen.
And to clarify for anybody who's listening and watching this episode, not all of these guests are exclusively from the original run that was on Nickelodeon. We have a few who are also from the reboot, so we're going to have memories that are going to cross between both. So just know that ahead of time.
Got to have full representation, even if some of you listeners are diehard 90s fans or even enjoyed the reboot. We gotta do it justice by covering everything.
So I am a reboot contestant. So although I desperately wanted to be on as a child, my mom would not drive me from Connecticut to Florida for that. As a adult getting on the show, first of all, it was just really surreal. And we filmed outside. We were on like a movie ranch. And so walking onto the set and just seeing the Moat, which was way, way, way bigger than the original, it was a little intimidating. And seeing the temple was just as amazing for an adult who had watched and loved the show as a kid as it is for a kid, I think, competing. It was just huge and intimidating and like just awe-inspiring. It was really a weird, like, made me feel like I was 9 years old again. It was awesome.
Did you get a chance to tour the temple at all as a contestant?
No, they did not let us. My team made it to the temple games, but were eliminated there. But we did get to take home Razor scooters, so, you know, I guess that's like the adult equivalent of BK nights. But they did not let us check the temple out. But, you know, when we were standing on the side waiting to go on set, like, I was trying to see everything just from the side, like, peek.
I was just going to echo what Jen said, because we were on the reboot as well. And, like, seeing the set so many decades after, you know, the original show, because Matt and I watched pretty much every single episode of the original series. It was just like my inner child screaming the entire time, like, I can't believe I'm here. And especially when we were on the Steps of Knowledge, because we were right next to Olmec, so that was just absolutely insane. And like hearing, you know, Olmec's voice, like D. Bradley Baker, just speaking right in our ears and asking us questions. It was just a wild experience and like something I didn't ever think we would be able to do in real life. So.
When you guys were on the steps, were you looking, like, we were closest to Olmec, and I just kept, like, I was looking, and you could see my face watching it. I was just like, I have to remember this forever. I have to take, like, the best mental picture of Olmec right here talking to me. Did you feel like that too? Like, okay.
And it was cool too, because like as kids, like we watched it and fantasized about being on it, but it was always like co-ed teams, and like to get to do it as adults, like with my brother, was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, and also just to expand on what Jen, you were just asking, like, because we were right next to Olmec, so like hearing the questions he was asking, and I feel like the story he told in the reboot was like 10 times longer than the story that he told in the original series.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to memorize every single detail and also not freak out because it's Olmec talking to me and like having to fend off the nostalgia because I'm in game mode right now. I can't worry about the nostalgia. It was just a great experience.
Sounds like a lot of mental gymnastics in addition to physical ones.
Oh, absolutely.
The funny thing from my perspective back in season 3 on the original show is, you know, it's so impressive how ornate the set was and the scale of the production. And Olmec, of course, you know, being a centerpiece of it, you know, I got to being backstage meet D very early in his career, and now he's done like what 700 different, you know, everything from Star Wars to Star Trek to everything. You know, one of the most proficient voice actors out there. But back in '95 in season 3, you go backstage and there's D standing behind Olmec with a lever to make the mouth move and a microphone that would trigger the eyes when he spoke, and it was just kind of like, it was cool, but it was so wonky at the same time. You couldn't help but just get a good chuckle watching him. Oh, here's the treasure of the Sierra Madre.
It sounds very much like with the Wizard of Oz, as he's like pulling all the mechanisms behind the curtain, except it's a giant stone head.
And he was a little kid, right? Like he looked like he was Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Very much, yeah. Curly red hair, like zoinks,
Who's that actor who looks like him? It's on the tip of my tongue. In the live-action Scooby-Doo movies.
Matt Lillard.
Oh, Matt Lillard.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, they could be Strange brothers.
John, what about you? What's something that you recall fondly?
I would just say that the whole set in the first place. I'd been on a previous game show for Nickelodeon, which their set was so small. I was on Get the Picture.
Oh, nice.
Oh, awesome.
So it was like kind of like a double whammy, and then all of a sudden I get thrown on this set, and I was like, this thing is huge. A little overwhelming for only being 13 and trying to take it all in and all the set lights, and it was just a good time.
Do you happen to remember what the artifact was when you were on the show?
Golden Cricket Cage of Khan.
Ah, yes.
I'm that guy. It was such a long day of shooting. By the time we got to the temple, yeah, people were like, "Oh, why didn't you do this?" That time of day, you're trying to stay on the whole time. That gets a little exhausting.
Yeah, because you're just sitting there watching it on TV, and you're like, "Oh, all you gotta do is do this and this." But when you're there, you're just trying to do a mental game.
Well, we had a TV in the green room and all, but half the time it wasn't even working. We weren't even able to watch other episodes being filmed, so we could get any type of reference.
A TV wasn't working in a TV studio?
No, they gave us no games, nothing to kind of keep us occupied, no maps to go off of. We were bored kids all sitting in a room.
Oh,
that's ridiculous. Oh, I'm sure everybody was climbing the walls.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
How much pizza and soda can you drink?
Yeah.
Bigfoot pizza.
Now, Christian, what about you? I believe we've asked you this before on when you were on, but for those who are hearing this episode for the first time and haven't gone to our previous ones, what is something that you recall fondly?
Yeah, so I was on as a kid, and the temple run definitely was the best part of the show.
And I have a question for David, Wavy Davy, as he is well known within the circuit of all nostalgia.
Yes.
Olmec is an incredibly iconic prop. I mean, you cannot separate Legends and Olmec. It's impossible. How many times and how often do you end up seeing a replica of Olmec somewhere, as in like a con, or people send you something? Is it something that happens frequently, or is it something that's just a every once in a while thing?
I just got a little bit of goosebumps thinking about that kind of thing. It's incredible to be attached, to have actually put your hands and sculpted something that rose to an iconic level. I mean, I got Pee-wee and some of the other Nickelodeon shows too, but Olmec is just singularly, I mean, he's the symbol, right? I mean, it's right behind your heads over there. I run into it now again. What's cool is to run into those T-shirts. I think I see them out in the streets some places, and it really brings a smile. Gives me a little bit of like I said, goosebumps. It's, as an artist, that's what you want to do, really touch hearts.
It's nice to see your work out in the open and people really connect with it.
Have you been to the was it the park up in New York or New Jersey, the Nickelodeon park that has like the Legends ropes course, and there's that huge Olmec?
I haven't. Is it good?
Sounds pretty cool.
It's amazing from what I say.
Yeah. It's a hotel, right? And they've got this big park that's mixed in with it.
I think it's in a mall or something.
Yeah.
It's called
Nickelodeon. Mall of America.
Yeah.
Is that where it's at?
The one with the coasters, like, SpongeBob and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I think this is in like New York or New Jersey, though.
It's in Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got like a whole like a Legends rope course as part of it, and then like I said, they've got like a full size Olmec, like a really good looking, like original looking one. Looks a lot better than the one in the reboot.
Oh, ouch.
Oh my.
But take that.
I was actually going to ask about the different iterations of Olmec, because I know season 1 he has a very like smooth look, and then around end of season 2, season 3 he has a much more chiseled look. Was there like anything that happened on set, or any like design decisions with the executives that made his look a little bit altered?
You know, I was involved. I did the initial sculpt of Olmec and the monkey, and I can't remember some other things. But then I went on to other Nickelodeon shows. So when that one got brought back for another season, there could have been, you know, they maybe wanted a bit of a change, but
I think I recall reading somewhere on the King's Storeroom website, which is like the fan-made website where they put all the statistics, that somewhere around that time, like all the lever pulling for Olmec's mouth, like caused the foam to crack and crease, so they had to remodel it with like some cloth and new foam of what chunks were left. And I guess they just conformed his cheekbones to be a little bit sharper to make it look more natural and less like his face is cracking apart.
Yeah, I hate to, you know, I would have liked to have been invited to been part of those workings, but yeah, I saw it after those whatever you would say refurbs, but yeah, it had gotten damaged pretty bad. Now, unfortunately, some of that stuff, you know, it goes into pretty rough storage. I mean, it was fairly respectful for storage, but you know, Florida heat and things like that. You know, I built puppets, and you put them in a bag, and the foam will just you just come back, open the bag, and it's some eyes and a pile of foam.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does not do well in humidity.
Dave, do you know what they ever did to the Olmec puppet after it was in storage? Because I saw pictures of it years later that you're talking about, where it's kind of damaged on the corner. But I always knew where it, or I wondered where it went, because I noticed there was a petition there in the shot on the picture to save him, I guess.
Oh, am I standing in that shot? Is there a couple of guys?
Yes, sir.
That picture, I believe, was at the sale where they sold off everything from the Florida studio, and I heard it didn't go to a good place, but I'm not going to talk too much.
That's all right. That's all right.
That's unfortunate.
But I don't, you know, I don't think it is in a vault anymore.
Yeah, I do remember some of the other Legends props and like pieces of the temple rooms were later auctioned off and also given away as prizes on Figured Out. So there's a little bit of connection there for you, Alex.
Carl, we haven't really got to hear from you too much just yet, like at all, outside of just, hi, how are you? Going to a viewer's perspective, what stood out to you, and what were some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, well, okay, first of all, I'm completely content not saying anything and just listening to your guys' stories. That's great for me.
No, we gotta have everyone talk here.
I think so. I was 6 or 7 when Legends premiered, and so like I think I was like right at the start of the target age group, and I was a huge Indiana Jones fan. Yes. And so it felt like an extension of Indiana Jones to me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
And so, yeah, I loved, like I have very vivid memories of coming home after school, and you know how every like school kid lays on the carpet with their pillow watching TV and just like soaking it all in, and mom saying, hey, you know, it's time for dinner. Give me 10 minutes. They just hit the temple run, you know? And of course, like every Nick kid in the 90s, you know, I was screaming at the TV whenever you guys couldn't figure out the silver monkey statue. Yeah. And I'm sure we all would have the same issue, you know.
Turn it around. It's upside down. Yeah. I think one time someone was trying to assemble the monkey and the pieces actually fell over the the room, and I think a temple guard had to throw it back up. I don't know if anyone recalls that.
Was it you?
Yeah, was it you?
One of many temple guards, I'm sure. But speaking of temple guards, I would like to hear a little bit more from Mike before we move on. What was it like to wear the costume and like just experience jumping out in all these random rooms to take kids away into the abyss where they're never seen again?
Well, the first thing about the costume. So there were 3 temple guards. God help me, I can't remember their names. I want to say it was Adam and Dennis, who were legacy. They came in from season 1 all the way to 3 out in Orlando. I had worked for Universal Studios in the backlot production department, and also was picking up different shows and promos at Nick Studios. So just having been around, I had the opportunity to come on board for Legends. So you can tell me in the costume versus Adam and Dennis, because they're the ones pack abs and got body by Bud Light, and 22 years old.
Oh, wait a minute. So you're the temple guard where
I'm the pudgy one.
No, where the time runs out and you're getting up and you're coming through the quicksand bog after the stone wall has been bust open. You're like, yeah, get over here. Time's up. Come on, I got to take you out.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because my normal rooms, because I was the new guy, and again, not the most attractive compared to the 2 Hollywood stuntmen. They would stick me in the tree quite a bit, so I didn't have to actually wear the costume. Like get in the tree, and the inside was like all paper mache, so it's itchy, it scratches, and you got to
Sorry
stay.
about that.
No, hey, you did a great job. You had to stay totally still, or they would have me in the swamp, which is basically a ball and foam pit, and you would have to lay there, and you have an IFR in your ear, and you hear the control room. All right, he's coming down. Mike, it's you. Go, Mike, get him. See, you're supposed to get up and grab the kid. Well, more than twice, I tackled the kid through the breakaway wall into the next room, trying to get the pennant. So, and then if it was when all doors open and they're making the run and they come through that room, you're hoping that they're not stepping on you or your junk while you're
yeah, in the ball pit. You don't want to get the wrong
Touche, sir.
But to your question, the costume was just so ridiculous, because you start off as a temple guard. You're one of the stunt spotters on the Moat, and then after the Moat was done, I would go to the control room and I would work the lights on the steps of knowledge. So when the kids stepped down, I was the one flipping the switch to the correspondent step. Then you would go to the temple games, and you'll see me, khaki shorts and a khaki shirt out there, making sure the kids don't fall or got all the bean pieces. But then when you go to change, and again, you're working with Nickelodeon tour guides and people you see every day. Well, we go to wardrobe and we literally put on a Speedo, a little loinclothy fabric thing, and then a chest plate and the mask with the feathers. So the wardrobe ladies, God bless them, they were so great, because the costumes would break all the time and they'd have to hot glue it on the spot. But at the end of the season, we had the Golden Speedo Award for the best temple guard who treated the wardrobe staff the best. But yeah, it was the costume was just ridiculous in a word. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The best. That's the best.
You broke Manny. You broke. We need a new Kirk.
I'm still here. 3 minutes.
That's not Kirk. Oh, this is a dishonest podcast.
Josh, come back. You're supposed to do Olmec.
We need him. He's gone. He's gone. Oh my God. He's back.
Favorite moments, honestly, I loved all of it. I really dug getting ready for the Moat crossing. I typically had Silver Snakes. That was my team most of the time. I had the Purple Parrots a couple times, but you would pep the kids up before they did that 2-shot of them when they announced them, and I would tell them, like, come on, man, NFL it, like headbutt, rock star at the camera. And so it became kind of a thing, and we'd all try to outdo each other. And I got chewed out by one of the floor directors, like, okay, Mike, calm down. It's not WWF, But I dug that. I really loved doing the temple games. to be honest with you, being a temple guard was cool, but it was really intense. Adam and Dennis, the two who had been there for the 2 seasons, it was, second nature to them. For me, stuck in a tree, have to remain like perfectly still while your arms are itching and everything's, you're sweating to death. And you got all that pressure, and you hear them coming to you through the earpiece. It's like, okay, they're coming down. Mike, no, get him. It's like, you just want to make sure you do a good job, because if you blow it, literally changes the whole shape of the game. So, but overall, I mean, the whole experience was just incredible. It's one of my favorite memories of my time doing television and film. Overall, my entire resume. That's definitely one of the highlights, if not the highlight, including all my time at Nickelodeon.
Sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, basically.
Absolutely.
Well, Nick and Josh, I know we've covered a lot of your ground in our Season 2 special, the Legends to the End Hidden Temple Legacy.
Where you promised we would meet the real Kirk.
We tried. I sent out so many messages.
We tried, man.
Effing idiot thing.
We tried to
I
get him.
think your Kirk is terrific. Your Kirk is friendly.
Now, I told you it wasn't going to work.
Come back, discount Kirk.
Let's do a high five. Let's do a high five, Phil.
Have you guys seen the show before actually getting on the show, or did you just kind of blindly sign up for it?
I did, but Nick had not.
Yeah, I was season 1, so it didn't exist. I think John also, he was season 1, so we were literally coming into it completely blind. Yeah, and not even knowing, just even learning the game, and it was like the first time there was any sort of like an elimination style game and that type of thing. So yeah, we had nothing. We were just more confused than anything. That's why anyone on season 1, when they're like, the kids are stupid, they don't know where they're going, or they don't know how to put together the monkey. That's like you're seeing everything for the first time. So,
and what was your episode number again?
16.
So that was the 4th day of shooting of the first season. So everyone's like brand new at it since he was episode 16. So it's crazy to know the episode numbers. That's why the Paramount Plus order is so neat to watch. But trying to be into it when you're thinking it's Double Dare, when you're like, whoa, this is
that's what we thought was showing up.
I just thought poor John, because he went from get the picture with a fairly and like I said, a small set, but you've got Mike O'Malley hosting, and was he just as chaotic as he was on Guts for when you did get the picture?
He was actually just larger than life. He was a really nice guy. I mean, overall, he tried to keep everybody calm, and here I am, only 11 years old and nervous as heck, answering questions wrong, question after question, and just trying to get an answer out, trying to keep my composure, standing on top of the footstool, trying to be as tall as possible because, well, I'm only like 4'6" or something, so they had to put me up. But yeah, Mike was a good dude. I mean, no complaints from him.
I think it's hilarious because I love Mike. Well, if you've heard our Guts episode, we love Mike. But I think it's hilarious the fact that he went from a small set with we know Mike O'Malley, big and a bit large as life, and then goes to Legends, where the set is bigger and Kirk is much more reserved than what Mike is.
Yeah, polar opposites. Well, he has his share of silly moments too.
He does.
I jump into the ball pit. Remember that episode? Captain Great.
Yeah.
Last episode.
Yeah. Did you get to see him do that, or is that something they did on the side, Kristen?
I think I saw him do it.
The ball pit jump?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because that was the last episode they filmed for the series at the time before the reboot.
Yeah, no, I in fact, I remember that, and I remember one of the promos. One of the things that was cool about Legends is the technology that they had at their disposal was really kind of way ahead of its time. They actually had lipstick cameras on a pole, which, back in '95 was not common. So you'll see some shots, just one of the episodes I was watching tonight, where you'll see the camera's view go between some bricks and then close in on some lizards in the pit. And that was just somebody with a lipstick camera on the end of a pole sticking it through. But they did a few chase shots, and Kirk would run and jump into the pit while being chased by the camera operator with the lipstick cam. So I do remember he did that a few different times, Chris. Not to jump in on you, but yeah, it's the technology that they had at their disposal with that MTV money was quite impressive for a game.
didn't translate to the prizes, but
Yeah, no, well, the Arbitron
lipstick camera.
watch
I would have
still
taken a
holds up, you
lipstick
know?
camera as a prize.
Want a box of nerds?
You already had.
I've got a toy big red boat, somewhere.
Get your clothes from Fashion Bug.
Yeah. Where did they
You guys don't like strawberry Nesquik? What?
Pretty good.
It's a $50 savings bond, right?
Not the real thing. Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's great.
Oh man, where do we go from here?
Were you guys made aware of what the prizes might be beforehand, or you just heard it for the first time?
We didn't even hear it on production.
I did on my well, not through. You don't hear through the whole thing, but in the tempo run, we got to watch the little. They actually knew the 3 prizes because we watched the whole. That whole thing.
And then in the new one, they were just making them up.
Oh my
to get
god!
reaction shots.
They told us, they said, we just need you to react. And they said, get excited. They're like, you're going to win and then they cut to us and we were just like, what? And then when we found out it was a scooter, I was like, that's actually perfect.
They didn't even make it Legends themed.
They didn't even have fun with it. They didn't even joke around oh, you win a new car out of cardboard.
Well, they kind of did though, because I think the losing prize for the Steps of Knowledge in the reboot, it was like this sports gear, but one of it was like a shirt or something. It says I lost on the Steps of Knowledge.
Yeah.
They're poking fun at it.
That's a souvenir
smart.
I've ever seen.
That's cool.
Well, what I loved about what I loved about watching the reboot after we were on is the team that came in dead last, they just kept their t-shirts and they had to film the reaction shots, so they're hyping them up in the reaction. They're like, yeah, get excited, you're gonna get something really cool, and then you see you get to keep your t-shirt. This t-shirt. And then the second place, the Steps of Knowledge prize, was that sports gear. They definitely didn't make that sports gear, so if you look, it's just very poorly.
It's like Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop.
They have a camping chair with Olmec's face on it and a thermos that says Legends on it, but it's off center.
Yeah, it was a ride, but yeah, if anyone wants to rewatch it, just look at the reactions when someone gets a T-shirt. It's not a normal human reaction.
Yeah, reacting to the right thing. Well, I think we can all agree that just being on Legends is the true prize, not exactly what you get from the production team.
Experience points.
Definitely.
Yes.
It's a forever corporate fun fact and an icebreaker that you always have in your back pocket. So
and I think Nickelodeon games in general were that way. That you're not there to get prizes; you're there to play the game.
Yeah.
Except Double Dare. I don't like Double Dare to me. With the obstacle course, that just kind of set the precedent. Everyone thought they were going to be that many prizes, winning that much.
Yeah,
so.
one per obstacle, so you get 8 total, and then there's something big at the end,
and everything in between, that money from the other stuff, and we didn't even get to keep, because I was first season, so I didn't realize. So I, in the back of my head, kind of hoped, I was like, I've got to get the other prizes too. I thought I was kind of collecting. My Nesquik and my
Super
tuna
soaker.
fish and all the stuff, and it's just a telescope.
That's so funny. So from the perspective of somebody who was watching, I didn't realize till now that I never cared about the prizes. If I was in your shoes, the prize to me would have been the temple run, being able to do the temple run.
Yeah, you'd think that, and I thought that too. But man, when you get there and they read off my grand prize, and I'm in Orlando, and then they're like, "You won a trip to Busch Gardens," which is the
great. I go there every day.
Yeah, 40 miles up the road. So yeah, I mean, space camp. That's what it was about. We always wanted to.
Yes.
We just wanted to go to space camp.
Yeah.
I got to go to Mexico. That was really cool.
Yeah, going on the trip, that was great. Especially ones that were not in Orlando. So that's great.
Yeah.
Did you end up keeping any of the prizes you got, Kristen, other than the trip?
Yeah. I used the rollerblades all the time. I became a rollerblader after that show, and we had the little 6-in-1 game table. That was a lot of fun.
See, some practical prizes are there.
Just from the perspective of being part of the creator of the art team, bringing visions to life, as people, the viewers and what have you, it touches my heart, and I'm interested in hearing how about. I always liked the shows that we created that took you guys into a world that Legends particularly did it. I think Guts did it in a pretty good way. In my career, I think Pee Wee was a world, you could go to, and I just wanted to hear how you guys felt about the idea of these worlds that we created and that you wanted to go there.
Speaking as one of the co-hosts, I absolutely loved every how different almost every Nickelodeon show was, especially the game shows, because they all had their own character, they had their own identity, and especially the game shows were really great about making this environment that kids wanted to be a part of. That's why we loved to watch them so much, and that we wanted to be on them so much. I mean, even Double Dare, the first one, had this great bright colors and this fun set, even though it smelled all the time, I'm sure. But
my car smelled like that too.
Yeah,
rotten whipped cream.
But they were so rich with character, the sets and the props and everything about it, the sounds, the music. It fit so well that you wouldn't have to be in it to know what it was. As in, you could take one piece of every single one of those shows and present it. It could be listen to 3 seconds of this song, or look at one set piece, or any random prop. What show was this from? And you would know immediately what it was, because it set that scenery so perfect, and it was an environment that not just kids but adults would want to be there too. I guarantee you.
Yeah, each had a distinct identity to it.
What about but you say that, and then it just immediately as you're describing that, I think you're exactly right. But think about like Wild and Crazy Kids, how that was like just outside in the park, but the way they produce it, from the music, like the wow and it's like, and the lighting and stuff, it's just like it makes you feel like you're in the like you said, it transports you there. Even like the fantastical worlds like Legends, where it's all fake, but even that, being out in the park as a kid watching that, it just gave that vibe. It wasn't like overproduced. It just felt, it's like gritty. You're at the park playing with a bunch of other kids. So I mean,
that almost felt like a giant field trip. Go out.
Yeah, but everything fit. So like you said, you're like, you watch a show and just kind of like you just immersed in it, and it has its own tone. It doesn't feel like you're watching another, just another version of another show.
And that was part of their thing, was what are some fun things the kids can do outside? Okay, now let's take it to the 11th degree and make it ridiculous and still fun. And that was kind of their mentality, I think, for just about every game show that they had.
What I will say about Legends in particular, though, because it was set in this kind of fantasy-ish setting, it almost felt like being inside a video game. And I know part of the concept was based on, the creator's love for the Legend of Zelda. And so like being part of that, even in the reboot, but that's why I loved it as a kid so much, was seeing this like fantasy setting. I could play it on my Nintendo or my PlayStation, but to like live it in real life and do those things and feel like you're part of a story, which I think Legends did more than anything else. Was each episode was really story based, which Double Dare and Guts didn't necessarily have that aspect to it. So like you really felt you were working towards something, and especially you were working towards that temple and getting that artifact and fulfilling whatever legend it was. And I think that's what made this show in particular really special.
That's true. Everyone felt like they had a shot at being the hero of their own video game, or whatever kind of immersive story you want to imagine. And that was the allure for viewers like Carl, Alex, and I, and even Manny as well, where we just got sucked into this world with the way it was presented to us, like an ancient forbidden jungle temple that we couldn't access any other way, but we wanted so badly to uncover all the different secrets. And because of the sheer amount of episodes they produced, it was like 120 in total, plus I think 13 reboot episodes. there was always something new to keep it interesting, or like different room configurations with different artifacts. So it's like each time you peel back a layer of the onion that just kept on giving you more and more layers of rich history that you couldn't help but just be a part of that lore in some way, either, you know, from the TV screen or even in the soundstage at Nick Studios.
What I loved about the show, like, just when you're thinking like Legends of the Hidden Temple, you already know what you're in for, especially like the opening with it, like going through the woods and the jungle, and then seeing Olmec's face. You know you're just in for it. And it's like, even if you're like, you know, streaming it and you're like, it's 1 a.m. and I should probably go to sleep. Oh no, Olmec is great. So it's just something about it. And Alex really explained it really well about like putting you in this world and universe. It's just amazing. Like this Aztec temple, when really in reality, it's just a soundstage, but just with the lighting, with the sound and the music, it just makes you just, I don't know, it gives you that sense of like excitement no matter what. And it doesn't feel like a game show. It feels more like just a story.
Interactive story.
It's kind of like, I mean, going to things like this, it's kind of like watching a puppet show, because you know it's a puppet and you know it's just somebody manipulating the puppet. I mean, Olmec himself is essentially a giant puppet.
He is. Yeah.
It's brought to life, and through the characters and wonderful performances. And even though you're just watching a puppeteer and a puppet, you're not watching the puppeteer, you're watching the puppet, and you are willing to disbelieve all reality and just go into this what is going on with this one puppet. And that's the same mentality whenever we go to like Disney World. We know these characters are just people in suits, but we're willing to go along with it and just suspend our reality and go into a fictitious, beautiful world. And it's the same with Nickelodeon in these shows. Even though you're at a sound studio, you're not. You're in this really awesome Aztec temple, and there's Olmec. It's not a puppet, it's Olmec, and all these wonderful things. And then a temple guard in a tree who will attack you.
An itchy temple guard. The itchy temple guard.
He's just trying to scratch himself. He's not trying to grab you.
I'm back.
Mike, I know
My elbows don't bend. Please, somebody.
Now, Mike, you told a story once where you were like this and it was going up into your armpits.
Yeah.
Is that what it was doing? Okay.
Yeah, it was. Let's just say it was an awkward fit. It was built for a Hollywood stuntman, not a Body by Bud Light 22-year-old. So there was a lot of chafing. I'll say.
Were there any like wild parties, you know, from the temple guards or Olmec or anybody?
Well, they invited us to them as kids, but that was weird.
Not on the regular, but the rap party we had in downtown Orlando at a laser tag, kind of an adult laser tag called Qzar, and it became a kind of like full contact laser tag. We'll just say with. But
we were pretty rock and roll back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. The art department guys, we were pretty party.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Not on property, but right off property.
Oh yeah, the parking lot.
It was a long walk, man. It was a long walk.
Have any of you guys had any interactions with Kirk or Dee outside of the filming of the show at all, like on the set?
No, I have not. I've gone to a couple of cons where Dee was there, but outside of like, oh, there's Dee, but he wouldn't remember me. It's 28 years ago. I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, you were temple guard. Good, here, sign $50.
I reached out to Kirk as a kid. It was like the one celebrity, if you will, that I could find on probably when Google first came out or something. And I remember calling and saying, "Can I send money for an autograph?" And he was very sweet and said, "Yes." I don't think I ever followed through with it, but
he said you could send him money for an autograph.
I offered something. I felt bad.
He would do it for free.
I think I felt bad about postage. I was raised in a postage appreciation life.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'll sign it. Send it to me.
You have a good
I'm
announcer
here
voice,
for
by
you,
the way.
buddy. I'm right here.
It was cool to see him in the movie, the movie that they did, the Nickelodeon movie. It was cool to see Kirk back in that. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, they made the temple amusement park ride, and a kid and his sister like went inside, and a lot of the rooms, they weren't the same as the game show, but it was actually made to feel like a real temple. So they even had like the different colored animals to represent the different teams there, and they, of course, they had the silver monkey to tie everything together to get to the end. And there's a few temple guards chasing them. So I thought it was interesting to see it from a more painted, realistic perspective.
Someday we're gonna have to do an episode on that movie.
They make Olmec a god, and it's really cool writing his own mythology. Like, oh, this is his son, and this is his evil son. So I thought that was done really well.
It was way better than it had any right to be. I watched it for nostalgia's sake, but was entertained at the end of it. So.
That was very much the mentality that I had, because my son watched it, and of course he knows I do this podcast, and I was all about 90s Nickelodeon things anyway. He said, "Dad, did you know they made a Legends of the Hidden Temple movie?" Yes, I did. Have you watched it? No, I watched it. It was really good. I think you'll like it. Can we watch it? Okay. And I wasn't even halfway through, and I looked over at my wife going, "This is actually really good."
It makes me wish they turned the studio set into an actual amusement park ride. Just imagine how many fans who are in their 30s now would pay money just to run through a variation of the temple now.
Oh, yeah.
Gangbusters.
With the way
Don't get hurt.
haunted houses are nowadays, you figured like that would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it because I'm a scaredy cat. So no.
Brett and I have been saying for a while. I have been saying I really want Splat Attack to get successful enough that we can start having our own cons. The first podcast to have their own con, and what I would love to do is have a touring hidden temple that people could go through.
Oh boy,
it would be a logistical nightmare, I know, but it would be so cool.
Some inflatables, maybe today.
Yeah, inflatable temple. you bounce your way past the temple guards to get the artifacts. Never mind try and dodge them.
Find those old find like the business suites where they used to have discovery zones, and repurpose those as hidden temple playgrounds.
I think you're onto something.
Well, if you promise not to have the trees, I'm in.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hidden temple, I'm curious, what are each of your favorite rooms of the hidden temple, and if you have any meaning tied to them? Because we've definitely seen various layouts of the temple throughout the 3 seasons and the reboots. So I'm wondering if any of them really resonate with you, whether you actually went into the temple or you just like the look of it, or you saw other contestants you liked run through it that had a cool mechanism. Share your thoughts, any of you.
I mean, for me, it was always the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, because I'm sure that's going to be like one of the more popular answers. But I mean, that was the one that when you're watching it, you're always getting so frustrated at those kids. Like, put it together, man. But then, I mean, we didn't get to the temple, but I saw it and I was like, there it is. I probably wouldn't be able to put it together if I went up there myself right now.
Did it shock you that it was on a 3rd floor instead of a 2nd floor this time around?
It was pretty wild, and they had this like mannequin in one of the rooms, and that was a brand new room from the original one. And from far away, it looked like it was just someone standing there. So it was a little bizarre seeing that one.
Josh is the only one to do it twice, to put the silver monkey together twice.
Oh, I thought you meant the mannequin.
Oh, yeah.
That one looked equally tough, though, when I saw the reboot, the Queen's Armory, because instead of 3 pieces, it's 5 different ones.
It was a nightmare. It was the worst. And you're so winded by the time you get there. I was like moving, like my brain was moving twice as fast as my body in that one. You could hear people like, like him yelling like, "Oh, come on." It's dead silent, dead silent. Unlike the original, when like John and those of us who ran the first one, where it's like you get the crowd, unless they went home for the day, but the crowd screaming, you hear the music, you hear Kirk. It's like this burst of energy. You're young. But in the reboot, it was awkward. It was like a run through. It was just crickets. And then when you go and it's like if you're on TikTok or anything, like that squeaky shoe sound, like that's all you hear is just like quiet. And it's so by the time you get out there, all you can hear is yourself breathing in the Queen's Armory and dying. And I was praying for a temple guard.
Was it awkward with the head cam? Was it awkward with that?
A little. I mean, I didn't really notice it. It didn't really like. But they must have been some kind of tech thing because they only did it for the first few that went, and then they just, I guess, gave up on it.
Brett, I am terrible with the names. I always am terrible with the room names. What was the room with that Jason had to use the dog leash to pull the rope?
Oh, that's the pit.
The pit. Okay,
you got the easiest one.
I always loved whenever they had the rope in the pit. Because, like Carl,
too many people failed.
Indiana Jones, it was my absolute favorite hero of all time until James Bond in the late 90s for me. But to see whenever somebody, like you said, they failed, but whenever someone was able to do that, actually hold onto the rope and swing from one end to the other, I got so excited. Like, to me, they had just won the temple already because that is so cool.
It's their final moment of escape, and once they get over that chasm, it's smooth sailing through the crypt and down the steps. I've definitely seen my share of wipeouts in that pit because even though it looks like there's a lot of space, there's a lot of stuff to wade through, whether it's like styrofoam peanuts in season 1 or like green balls in season 2. And then in season 3, it got a little bit elongated with a column that you had to knock over with like a weird wooden cylinder on a rope. So.
Yeah. The pit and the pendulum, yeah.
Yeah, it's like an equalizer whether you get into the temple or get out because it takes some quick thinking to maneuver it without slowing down too much. And there's definitely been a handful of temple runs where you think they're going to make it out with the artifact, but as soon as they get in the pit, they either like fall down or take the bottom route instead of the top route, and you just lose all that time before the very end.
I mean, remember the elevator from season 1? That took forever.
Yeah, with the well and then the mine shaft, they both had that mechanism. It took at least 25 seconds to get up. I counted.
That was where Josh was, where he was stretching, like he was waiting, and they thought, and remember he said that he thought like people watched and they think that they cheated because like they stopped the elevator so he couldn't reach it, but there was like the piece on there you have to hold it.
Yeah, it came up on the two-handed actuator.
So like when he was reaching for the thing, so he kind of stopped it himself, but.
But it's so much like being in a movie to give credibility to Davey and the other production crew. It's like you hear that music to Nick's point in season 1. So you hear that music running out as well as the countdown pre-recorded or actually there. So cool as a kid. Same with Shrine of the Silver Monkey. Everything's lit like a treasure. There's your golden idol from Indiana Jones. Such credibility given just from the set alone, much less the production value on the music and all that.
Yeah, it definitely does it justice.
You were talking about the music, and I'm going to put it in this episode. I don't think I've put it in previous episodes, but I know that I had told Brett this before. I would love to ask the composer if one of the Temple Game songs was influenced from Bat Dance.
I was just going to say, did you like the bootleg Bat Dance?
Because that's what, for anyone who does not know, Bat Dance was a song from Prince from '89 Batman, and one of the Temple Games is exactly like it. So I'll play a little bit of both right here.
Okay.
Imagine Prince playing the Temple Games.
every dance move will be him going into a room.
Right.
The pit will be all purple.
But getting back to the rooms, what are some of the others?
Silver monkey.
What were some of your other favorite rooms?
I really loved when I don't know if it was the second or third season when they introduced the heart room.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
was a
was
cool
so
one.
like dazzling to me because like once the lights like lit up and the sound, I was like, whoa. And also whenever I thought it was so like I used to watch it and be like, I would be scared of that room and this room because if a guard comes and gets you, like if you're sitting down and the guard comes in and they grab you from behind, I was like, I would just have a heart attack.
That's why they call it the heart room.
The heart room. Yeah. But I was like, wow, that's so visually stunning.
Yeah. I'm a fan of the heart room as well, because not only is it statistically one of the hardest rooms to get an artifact out of. I think only two of them got taken out: the Lucky Pillow of Annie Taylor and the Muscle Shell Armor of Nupak. Sorry, butchered that. There's a lot of versatility to it too, because they still kept the same like heart mural painting on the wall, but they changed a lot of the mechanisms for it. Like sometimes it became Medusa's lair, where they put a head on the front and you have to put the snakes in. Sometimes it became the Room of the Fallen Columns, where you have to go through like a bunch of boxing punching cylinder type things. And then other times it had like the giant Mandarin hand that you had to like put the fingers on the globe to maneuver. So it always kept you guessing, and somehow it just brought the whole layout of the temple together, no matter who had to maneuver around it or through it.
I think the Jester's Court was cool. Yeah. The fact that it would go right in, and I heard that there's still to this day a kid stuck in there. Oh my god!
Oh, she's frozen on the buttons. You can't pry her off.
Oh, she won't even blink.
There she is.
Starstruck from the podcast. I think King's Storeroom was cool to trust kids to break some clay.
Yeah. The armory was always one of my favorites, where they had to pull the arms down and but that was always.
I want to piggyback on that answer right there. I love the heart room as well, but that room from season 3 had to be the most scariest. Because imagine you just pulling that down and then you're getting grabbed.
That I was gonna say that's the worst part. Like out of all the places to put the temple guard, like that had to be the most terrifying.
What about that one temple guard that yelled like that? There was a guy that did that.
When did that happen?
It's happened. I think it's on season 1 or season 2. But
that would be me. Fog, you have offended us.
There is one that had that.
That's probably why they replaced the temple guard with like a sound effect they press on the switchboard. So that they didn't have to do that.
Watch the show. I promise it's there.
Man, and every time I see the temple guard come out, and they didn't even do it in the show because it wasn't a thing yet, but I always hear the witch doctor from Crash Bandicoot every single time they show up.
Aku. Maybe they're related.
It could be. It's a ghost of a temple guard.
Yeah.
Mike? Is it a ghost of you?
Did any of you see on the Splat whenever they had someone dressed as a temple guard and was going through the office scaring all the staff members?
Yeah.
That was terrifying. You hear that? Andrew, I'm gonna kill you.
I remember there was a Stickly episode where he went from the hallways of Nickelodeon into Stage 18 when Legends was shooting, but I can't find that at all online either.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
You know, I made Stickly.
Whoa,
did.
Goodness.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Hey,
dude,
I have all kinds of drawings. What's that?
I said you were I think I respect everyone's presence, but I think we will all agree that you're the star of this podcast here.
Absolutely.
The Wavy Davy Show.
Seriously. You made all of Nickelodeon. I mean, seriously.
The backdrop of all of our youth.
Yeah.
God bless. It's cool to, you like, I think I've said it more than once. It's you as an artist, you want to touch people's hearts, and it seems like we got to you guys somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the moment, because you can thank Mark Wiener, because when we did an episode with him, he said, "You've got to get Wavy Davy. You've got to get him next time we do an episode." And he was telling us some of the things you did, and I said, "Oh man, we've got to have David on at some point." And when we did the Wienerville episode that you were a part of, and I was telling Brett, he's done so many other wonderful things in the show. We're gonna have to have David on again, and we're just gonna have to keep having the man on, because one of the things that we saw on Nickelodeon as kids was they had a great way of incorporating some of those iconic characters in other areas of Nickelodeon. So like Melissa Joan Hart, we saw her everywhere outside of just Clarissa. She did so many commercials, and then they did the same thing with the cast of All That and Danny Tamborelli, and then they would start doing all these other crossover things and crossover events. But what we don't see is all the people behind the scenes who have had their fingers in so many different pies that Nickelodeon had. Their cream pies. I mean, Mark Summers was everywhere, but we didn't know that the guy who made Olmec also made Stick Stickly, and also had worked on Guts, and also worked on Wienerville, and also did all these awesome things. And like I said earlier, with puppets, they become synonymous with that show. Olmec has become synonymous with it, and yes, they are absolute core memories for us, because we see Olmec, but what we remember is exactly what Carl was saying: not getting home fast enough to sit down and jump into this world and put away school and put away home and dive into something that is wholesome and fun and in a way clean, in a way very messy, but you've been able to help make this fully realized for us. And then whenever we go back with our adult lives now, which good or bad, they're adult lives now, and then we see Olmec on Paramount Plus, and then we're instantly back to, I can't wait to get home from work and sit down and watch this with my kids and get back into this world again. So yes, you have absolutely created or co-created some wonderful memories for us that we cannot even begin to say thank you enough for, not just with Olmec, but with so many other things as well. So when Josh says you are the star of this podcast, of this episode, he's not wrong, because you have done some wonderful stuff, and we will always be very grateful for all the things that you've done behind the scenes and made such wonderful things for us to enjoy.
I appreciate that very much. Such kind words. What a blessing it is. And, to think that you guys carry those little things all the time, and little triggers will take you there. That's so cool. That is so beautiful. I wonder if the next generations are getting those little things or not.
I mean, my son is. I mean, I'm honestly thanks for Paramount Plus, because all of that stuff, he's now watching like old Nickelodeon stuff and getting into that. So the fact that I get that stuff with him, and he's only 2.5, but it's pretty cool that he's able to see it.
So my son is he's gonna be 9 soon, and I'm a very nostalgic person. So we watch a lot of shows from like my childhood. So he's been watching like old episodes of Legends that we could find on like YouTube for the last few years. So when I found out that I was potentially going to be on the show and stuff, he told like everybody at his school, and none of the kids knew the show. And he was like, "You guys don't watch Legends?" And I was like, "What? They are not children. They were not born in the 80s." And I was like, "And they don't have weird moms like this who were like, no new stuff, old stuff only." So it's just really rad, because he loved the old show and then he watched the new one, and he said, like most people said, he was like, "Listen, Mom, I love you and you did awesome, but I really like the original better." And I was like, "Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. Fair enough."
At least you got him raised on quality classic Nickelodeon television, because I feel like all of us, not just Alex and I running this podcast, we kind of have an obligation to present the history of Nickelodeon to the next generation, and not really convince them, but help them understand why it's so meaningful and special to us. Because today everything is just easily at your fingertips, and there's just a million different shows on a million different platforms. How do you distinguish and parse it all and connect with anything when it's just a constant smattering of media? But at least back then we had that opportunity and the space to really see the identity of each individual show and really appreciate it for what it had to offer us. So because we had that experience that we lived through, it seems like a responsibility to share with younger generations so they can understand why it matters to us and why it should continue to matter to future generations as well.
Brett, I was going to make that point actually about the wide slate like my daughter. Obviously, you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want, stream everything. But in the 90s, and that's what made it, everybody had this, you just watched what was on TV at 5:30 or 6 o'clock or whatever time, Legends was on, and everybody was watching Nickelodeon, everybody is watching the same show. So if you talked about it later, you're all talking about the same episode, and oh, did you see what happened, last night, or even if it was like all that or whatever it is, those shows aired when they aired, and that's all you had to watch. And there weren't a ton of kids, networks at that time or things to, watch, especially in the evening. So we were all watching the same thing. So I feel like that's what brought us as a community together. And I'm, of course, pushed my daughter to watch it, and she has a blue barracuda and a silver snake shirt, and so she's into it, and she acts embarrassed, but then she'll casually bring it up to people randomly. So I'm like, so she's too cool to admit that it's cool. But the one thing I was gonna bring up also when we were talking about what made Legends unique and special, and in addition to all the other parts, I feel like it did one thing that no other show did, which was instead they had teams and they had tribes, and so they had all the, everybody, all the kids watching, you had someone to root for. You didn't have to get to know someone and like the team. Like if I watch, Guts, okay, red team, blue team, okay, Josh the Jet is cool or something, but it's not like I'm not gonna be like, I'm team blue. And so, everybody, associate, there's a lot of stuff now on like Twitter or whatever where people would be like, I don't care about your horoscope, but your Legends of the Hidden Temple team. Those types of things. Like people don't do that about any other show. It wasn't like, oh, who's your Double Dare team, blue or red? I mean, like this is everybody buys share, everybody associates, and they're diehard ride or die, except for us, which we've sold out our original teams. But everybody's ride or die with their teams, and I think that's awesome and so unique. I can't think of any other show that does that, where they, at least back then, where you had a team like a sports team almost to root for.
It's another layer of that lore that's built into the show, where you can connect with the tribes even if you're watching at home. Like even when I talked about it in top 5 game shows over on Patreon, Legends was my number 1, because when I saw the temple run of the headdress of Lawrence of Arabia being completed, that was like the first temple victory I ever saw. And for some reason, I just embodied, I really appreciated like the tenacity and the speed of that green monkey who made it all the way through with his teammate. And that's where that moment where you start to connect the traits that you have in yourself with the people.
You identify with a team. You're like, oh, silver snakes are always kind of sneaky, but they're fast. And like purple critters are always really funny. And
or like the blue barracudas.
Like,
are very smart. So you kind of form this lore in your head, filling in the gaps and giving them personality types so that you feel like a sense of belonging, even if you're not, there in person participating. And that's where it kind of goes. That's the point where it goes beyond being a game show and becoming a legend of itself now 30 years later.
It would be today's equivalent of which Hogwarts house are you?
Yes.
Literally, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Which mascot, which icon?
Mm-hmm.
I'm also Slytherin, so. I have a question. Sure. I have a question. So if you competed as a kid, did they give you guys options? Did they ask you what team you wanted to be, or did they just assign you a team? Like they just assigned it, right?
They assigned it, and your partner. Yeah, you showed up and you met some awkward stranger, and you're
and they were like, "Okay, you're friends now." Because they asked us what team.
But we never saw each other. We never saw each other after the show.
Right.
Like,
really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. It's a very
Josh
limited
and Nick might be the
experience to bond.
exception.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of what the magic of it was too, from someone who watched it and what didn't participate in the original, is you just thought those two, that pair were best friends. Like I always thought, like, oh, those two kids, they must be best friends. Like they make a great team. So like to know later, like, oh, they didn't know each other and they did not hang out afterward. It's like you'd never know. You'd never know.
we would actually have some pairings where the chemistry was lacking from Jump Street. And, you'd have a team put together and they just white hot hated each other, and you hear one kid like just cussing out the other kid while he's running through the temple and failing miserably.
Yeah, there is this internet story where there was a girl that was on season 1. I forgot what the episode was. But she was the one that was scared to death of the temple guards. Literally, when the temple guard came out, she screeched, like screamed. But she said that her partner was, I quote, an abject idiot. So it's like,
Okay.
so
Wow.
that's a good example of how everybody really didn't get along. Sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes it reflects in the temple run too, depending on the routes they take or if they trace someone's steps or even make it to the artifact.
Were your parents allowed on set at all? Like, did they have a say? Were there stage moms? My kid needs more screen time, or you need to give them another chance.
If they had the audience in on 3, if they didn't release the audience for the day, they could sit in the audience area. But a lot of times the tapings would run past park hours, so they'd release the audience and just pipe in the applause. But no, parents had to stay pretty much in the green room during my season.
Yep, exactly. They were in one of the production buildings nearby, exactly where they were seeing the feed for the day. So they were able to watch it, but I guess they were just worried that parents would be too crazy from the crowd, perhaps.
It'd be like, don't attack my kid, and then you see someone bum rush the audience and go straight into the dark forest to punch the tree over.
Pepper spray the tree.
First.
Well, in the Slimed book that Matthew Klickstein had wrote, there were quite a few people who've worked with Nickelodeon who they have a whole section devoted to parents, where people who've worked on Nickelodeon talk about that was one of their biggest obstacles, especially for game shows. But Jeffrey Darby talked about it pretty much at length whenever he was talking about you can't do that on television, and people who the kids he would have on and the parents would do exactly what you were talking about, Carl. My kid needs more screen time. And oftentimes, according to Jeffrey, that they weren't necessarily auditioning the children, they were auditioning the parents. Because if the kids were fine, how are the parents going to behave? And if the parents were morons or jackasses or divas, then they wouldn't hire the kid. And that was just for a sketch comedy show. And I think they talked about that also for Wild and Crazy Kids, although that wasn't necessarily something they had a whole lot of, because parents were just happy to have the kids get out of the house and go outside and play for the day. But that is definitely something that they kept top of mind, of not having parents get in the way of production, so that way the kids could do what they want to do, they could have a good time, but also they could still keep the show going, because it takes one bad parent to slow production down.
Game shows were totally one thing, but then the other shows, like All That and all. I got to know Keenan and Kel's mom pretty well. They were part of the family. So
Elisa Reyes' mom, she was pretty cool too. She used to hang out with the crew quite a bit on that one.
How was Kirk's mom? Was she cool?
Take her into the temple.
She was a really, really nice woman. I mean, she raised me, right? She raised me with a microphone in my hand. No, and I was just born to be an announcer. It was great.
I have a question for all you guys while we're laughing it up.
Best question for the night.
Yeah. I'm guessing many of you have seen multiple episodes other than your own after, your experience. If you were to be on a different episode of Legends and or on a different team, which ones would you pick and why?
I would have loved to have been on season 3. After being on season 1, I probably would have. I thought it would. I'm jealous of season 3, like their tempo games, like their just everything. The tempo was everything was. Cooler. Like they get to wear jeans in the temple, not like sweatpants over khaki shorts over a swimsuit over like your.
What was up with that? Like, why did they have you change your pants?
They just kept putting on layers. I don't know. We're kids. We couldn't take our pants off, I guess. So like they must have been like.
I mean, the yellow matches the helmet really well. So
yeah, but it was like and then the pink, like I don't know if they still wore pink water socks in the 3rd season, but everything about it was, different. It was cooler. It was MTV, free. Like it was just different. So, like I said, from season 1, I don't care which episode it was. I thought it would have been cool to be on like season 3 when they.
Season 3 seemed like the perfect mix of season 1 and season 2, where season 1 was that steady, the big camera kind of shoot. Season 2 is crazy MTV, and then we had that finesse in season 3 artistically. When you go back and view like the later episodes, even the swooping shots in the Moat in the beginning, and all the time they had to be more creative since they'd already based each other season in its experience, so that the set's overgrown and beautiful foliage and the camera works crazy. So I think, yeah, season 3 of any episode would have been cool to be in.
Oh, yeah, even on the Steps of Knowledge, you get to see the fog coming out of the, the ceiling. It was cool.
Yeah, that's true. And all the tiki torches with the respective team emblems behind them, that was a nice added production effect.
Or the final episode, like shoot, I'm so sorry for your name.
Kristen.
Kristen, like, I mean, having like a famous episode like that, the first episode, the last episode, that's just something yet another thing to tout.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, at the time taping it, I didn't know. Well, I think I remember there's some talk of it being the final, but like it was my first time, so that's the excitement, right? But I think everyone was really wanting to help make it go out on a bang.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. The crew and everything just kind of going harder on that last episode. That would have been really cool.
Mike, it's so fun to see you and to hear your experience of it. And I was gonna say, I think the forest was like the scariest room. To imagine like a tree hugging me. So I think you did a great job.
Yeah, I've had some nightmares from it.
Never mind hugging a tree; the tree hugs you.
You're right.
No, but it really was a great crew. There was a ton of talent on it. A lot of them have gone on to do, a lot of great work in the production community. Some obviously, Dee being obviously probably the leader of that pack, but a lot of the camera folks have gone on to do all sorts of ENG, electric news gathering for various networks. But yeah, it was a great time, a great team. You really had a sense of family. Showing up every day and doing 4 shows a day, and it was just it was one of the best times of my life, to be quite honest.
So final question of the night. So we have enough energy for our segment later on. Was there any particular artifact or legend associated with an artifact that really drew you into the show more than any other?
Is it the Galileo cannonball? Was
Yes.
that one? I don't know why. I just thought that was so cool, like so cool as a kid. Like
That was the one when Jam and John got out with 1 second on the clock when he retrieved the cannonball from the dungeon.
As a kid, I couldn't tell you a single main artifact. Then when I got back into it as an adult, the one that always comes to mind is Buddha's belly button.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Why?
What is with some of the artifacts based on like really weird body pieces? Like there were hands sometimes. There was eyes,
the helmets.
heads.
Yeah.
The bifocal monocle.
Yeah, it had the eye in it still.
Yeah.
Did they rip it out of the guy?
Oh, the
I was
dead
gonna-
man's hand, which was just a deck of cards.
Oh yeah, that was a twist. What were you gonna say, Nick?
No, I was gonna ask, and I think it's Mike, about especially on the first season when they had like it looked like obvious stagehands standing there with like, and during the legends, like it would be like horribly racially inappropriate, like because they would never look but they would just be like a white guy, and it didn't matter what the legend was. It would where they show the
actors.
Oh
yeah, the
in
actors.
in the
Yeah, that's what I mean.
little
Yeah,
Moat fog thing.
yeah, and like the thing that which they stopped doing, I think, after season 1. But I was gonna ask, like, were those like also stagehands, or did they have to like hire other like people to do those?
Weren't those the moms and dads?
Gave them something to do
On
on the
wigs.
green.
Yeah.
Plot twist, they were all D. Bradley Baker.
I mean, in season 2 and 3 when the legend was going, yeah.
There is a rap tape of season 1. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It shows like a behind the scenes thing. It's like 5 minutes long, but it shows some of the actors getting into those costumes to be in the legend, and some of them are like PAs and production assistants that are like way off in the side after they do the temple run. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah, they recycled the stunt spotters as much as they could, because obviously there's 6 of them going for the moat, and then for the steps it was just me flipping switches. But then there were 4 of us for the various temple games, and sometimes they'd bring out the 2 original temple guards also. So it'd be anywhere from 4 to 6, but it would all pull from that pool of the spotters on the moat crossing.
Oh, cool.
All right, we've had a lot of great stories with these guys.
Oh my gosh!
And we've got a whole lot more episode to share with all of you. So, before we get too involved with other things that we're going to share with all of you, we're going to cut to a commercial break. We're going to step out of the moat. We're going to stop the temple games for a bit, and we're going to gather our pendants. And we'll be right back just after a little bit of other things that we've got going on with Splat Attack. So, be right back.
Legends of the Hidden Temple will be right back on Nick.
Thank you all so much for entering the temple with us for this 30th anniversary episode. While you're here, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review where possible. These very simple actions help others who are missing those good old temple runs find this nostalgic content so they can relive their childhood as well. So, small thing on your part, big thing for us. You guys are awesome. Thank you all for your support.
Tune in next time, Slimesters, when we take a secret shortcut out of the hidden temple and into Rocco's house at O-Town to celebrate another special occasion with Rocco's Modern Life's 30th anniversary. It's going to be tons of fun recalling the show's history with our special guests, so you won't want to miss all the zany, crazy, wild Rocco action. You can find all the nostalgia-rific moments only here on Splat Attack.
What happens whenever you get a witch, a bat, a dragon, and a singing trio of statue fish? You get Eureka's Castle! Please join us over on Patreon as we talk about Nick Jr.'s first TV series, Eureka's Castle, and we are going to be joined by some of the original cast, and I say some, it won't be just one guest. This is definitely going to be an episode that Nick Jr. fans are going to want to check out. So join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/SplatAttack to get access to this episode, as well as a backlog of many episodes exclusive to our Patreons. Remember that Olmec coin bank from Nickbox? Or the pint glass? Or the wall decals, or the coasters, all from Nickbox? Well, isn't that a shame that Nickbox is no longer around? If only there was something else out there for some good old Nick merch. Splat Attack's got you covered. We have brand new t-shirts, 2 exclusive to Legends of the Hidden Temple. We have a Silver Monkeys t-shirt and an Olmec t-shirt, and we also just released a Nickelodeon Blimp t-shirt. And we have t-shirts for all kinds of different things, also including Stick Stickly, which Wavy Davy also designed. So head over to our bonfire. Go to bonfire/store/Splat Attack store, hyphens in between, to take a look at what shirts that we have available, as well as some coffee mugs. If there's a design that you would like, shoot us a message. Let us know what you would like, and we'll do our very best. So don't let the cancellation of Nickbox get you down. There's still plenty of Nick merch out there. Head over to our bonfire and make your choice. The choices are yours and yours alone.
And now back to Legends of the Hidden Temple, only on Nickelodeon.
All right, we've got our pendants ready, and we have got our teeth guards in and helmets ready, and we're ready to do this temple run. So before we really get into more with our guests, because this is a 30th anniversary, and we do want to make sure that we cover as much as we can of the series. I know this episode will be a little longer than our usual ones, but I'm sorry, that happens whenever we have 30th anniversary episodes and we have this many guests. I do want to mention, before we get going into the origins, that there were some people that wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately could not be here. We really wanted to have one contestant from each team. That was our goal, and we were so close to achieving that. Catherine Mangan, who was on our show before, she was our green monkey, and she was going to be here. She messaged me about an hour or so before we started and said that she's still recovering from pneumonia. She was hoping to be here regardless, but she's too wiped, and totally understand that. We will be having Catherine on again at some point because she's awesome and she has more stories to share with us. We were also going to have Joe True who was our first Legends contestant on the show, but for reasons that I'm not going to go into because it's very personal, but he was unable to make it for this episode, and all our love to both of you. And we did manage to get in contact with a few other contestants that we unfortunately weren't able to work out them being here also. I think in total we had 3 others that were going to be here. And also
Julian from What's in My Head pod. He's a big Legends fan as well, and unfortunately he's dealing with the hurricane issues over, on the lower East Coast now and trying to get his power back on. So understandably he couldn't join us due to internet issues, but we hope he's staying safe with everyone else and all of our loved ones who are in the Florida area during this time.
Most definitely. But again, because this is a 30th anniversary episode and we want to try to encompass as much of the show as possible with all these wonderful stories that our guests have shared, we do feel kind of an obligation for anyone who may be listening to the show and has no clue what Legends is, which at this point, what are you still doing watching and listening to this episode? But we do want to go into the origins a little bit and talk about the show itself. So since this is one of Brett's absolute favorite Nickelodeon endeavors, I'm going to let him take the lead on walking through the origins for us.
Of course. Well, it goes way back to just before 1993. While Nickelodeon Studios was ironing out its gamut of game shows it had developed since the early days of Double Dare, Legends would continue the trend Nick Arcade and Guts would set with their extreme, cool edginess. Legends of the Hidden Temple premiered on September 11th, 1993, and was shot on Soundstage 19 at Nickelodeon Studios at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, for the entirety of its initial 3-season, 120-episode run. The original concept was supposed to be a haunted house, but they scrapped it for the more historical, exotic flair with an Aztec ancient Mayan temple. It was produced by David G. Stanley and Scott A. Stone, collectively under Stone Stanley Productions, and they depicted the show as the ultimate elimination challenge based loosely on ancient Mayan and Aztec culture, featuring lost treasures guarded by terrifying temple guards. According to a 2016 interview with Fandom, Stone mentioned he was inspired by the Fractured Fairy Tale segment from the 1959 Rocky and Bullwinkle show and wanted to put historical figures in his show that kids would remember 20 to 30 years later when they were older and had a way to apply the knowledge mentioned. Of course, 30 years later, we're still talking about Legends today, so mission accomplished. Each of the 6 teams consisted of 1 boy and 1 girl wearing a colored shirt adorned with a yellow jungle animal emblem. The red jaguars, the blue barracudas, the green monkeys, the orange iguanas, and the silver snakes.
And purple parrots.
As mentioned in the Orlando Business Journal, it described it as a combination of Jeopardy and Raiders of the Lost Ark, way back in 1996 in an article they did, which is not far off, as Scott Stone reported aesthetic influences of Indiana Jones and Legend of Zelda, affecting the design of the temple, the obstacles, and just the overall feel of the soundstage. In 2013, there was a Vice article written where Kirk recalls the intense production schedule during the first season. He says, "They were long and challenging days. The first season was particularly challenging as we were a new show and we were scrambling to get it up on its feet. We typically did 4 shows a day and it shot out of order, so all the moat crossings were first. Then the Steps of Knowledge, the temple games, and finally the temple run. By the end of the day, I was completely exhausted. I'd never hosted a show, and this being a very complicated production, I was completely overwhelmed." Of course, we heard from our contestants on this episode that they were also exhausted and overwhelmed many times because they would shoot 4 to 5, maybe even 6 on rare occasions shows a day, and they would just do a bunch of moats, bunch of Steps of Knowledge, temple games, temple runs, and just kind of go in that sequence. So it was a big ordeal for everyone, especially in the first season when they're still working out the kinks like timing of the doors and temple guard placements and whatnot. But they later got their stride during season 2 and 3. We also have some behind the scenes footage that we'll be showing throughout this episode to give you a better idea of what it was like to be there when this show was first forming together. And we actually have some audience footage of the show getting set up thanks to YouTuber Tom Redding that recently surfaced. Thank you to Nick Borey for giving me that tip, because it's just a delight to see the temple as it's forming together while, you know, you hear narrations of Nickelodeon tours in the background. As far as the reboot goes, which aired from 2021 to 2022 on the CW channel, it ran for 13 episodes between October 10th, 2021 and January 23rd, 2022. And it's considered by the Legends Wiki as the unofficial 4th season of the show. Fans praise the show for all the familiar elements involved, such as the moat crossing, temple games, etc., and even enhancements such as the comic book style graphics used to illustrate Olmec's legend while he tells it, and the first-person point of view cameras, while temple runners sprint and maneuver to obtain the artifact of the day. Conversely, many of the reality TV elements and a lack of live audience contributed to the overall lower energy of the show, and vocal fans definitely expressed disappointment with these elements of the reboot. But aside from that, a lot of fans enjoyed it overall and just got to have many of their childhood memories relived thanks to, you know, kids their age who grew up with the show act as contestants on the show. Other notable changes between the original and the reboot involve Legends having a more adult theme with graphic depictions of gore, violence, and the occasional swear from Olmec, as he would mention that damn monkey being put together. There was also all 6 teams returning, although there were only 4 per episode this time around, so the combinations rotated constantly throughout the 13-episode run. There was also a moat crossing that was much, much bigger, as Jen had mentioned in this episode, where there was more dimensions to the objective and is directly related to the legend, unlike the original series. The steps of knowledge were also shorter, requiring only 3 correct questions to advance and only 3 teams to compete during this round. But the same stomping on the marker sound is still present, which is a nice little nostalgic Easter egg. The temple games have also been reduced from 3 to 2, with full pendants awarded to each round, and there are no halves this time, but the pendants are jade green, which is pretty interesting. The temple layout has a 3rd floor this time around, but the length is condensed. Only 10 rooms exist, with a ladder climb on the other side of the Dark Forest, as opposed to the 12 in the original run. A few more rooms were originally planned, but got scrapped during production due to budget constraints during COVID. The prizes were much more consistent and limited compared to the original series. Once again, as Jen had mentioned, there is a Razor scooter involved, but to give you a tiny bit more detail, the Moat Crossing consolation prizes are the losing teams get to keep their shirts. For the Steps of Knowledge consolation prizes, there was a party pack featuring a Legends-themed cornhole, a folding chair, a cooler, and the thermos, which is basically a tailgating party pack. And lastly, the Hidden Temple prizes in the reboot consisted of cash prizes this time around, starting with 5K, 10K, and 25K for getting in, getting the artifact, and getting out with the artifact respectively, courtesy of Chime, as I remember that big white credit card that you can't actually use. I should also mention too that Stone Stanley also produced this reboot, but due to shifting from the now defunct Quibi app to the CW, some changes were necessary to be made in order for this show to get off the ground. Most notably, the frequent commercial breaks and the reality TV elements where contestants were interviewed throughout the episode, which, you know, some diehard fans weren't happy with, but it was a necessary evil to make the show even possible. I do want to finally note that Kirk Fogg did make a guest appearance in the 4 episodes out of the 13, where he would occasionally appear somewhere in the temple, usually in the Dark Forest, as Nick and Josh had mentioned in our previous episode with them in season 2 of our podcast.
And speaking of those 2 episodes, because I have noticed a pretty common trend with audiences that Legends of the Hidden Temple, original run, freaking awesome. The reboot, it's okay. And you can tell that just in the amount of people who have downloaded and watched our 2 episodes that both Nick and Josh were on, because the original one skyrocketed. And then whenever it talked about the reboot, it was just kind of we had some genuine interest, but not nearly as much as the first one. But I do want to encourage you, since this is a 30th anniversary episode, go check it out. It's not that bad. It could be better, but in today's environment and what they had to deal with in trying to make the show, was actually really decent. It was far better than you would expect. It's nothing stellar, but it's still a good adaptation to today's audiences.
Agreed. Yeah, I would say approach it with nostalgia goggles and an open mind, because if you're going to go in nitpicking, thinking it'll never live up to the original, then of course you're setting yourself up for failure with a bad time. We gave the 10,000 Year Necklace of Rama a fair chance, and it was one of our first perfect episodes on this podcast. So it just goes to show you that when you give something a chance to really shine for the things that it does right, it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah. And to continue on with the tradition of the 30th anniversary, we've talked at length about Legends of the Hidden Temple on this podcast, and that's not a bad thing at all. We if we didn't love it, we wouldn't talk about it so much. But one of the things that we have done is we wanted to mention some of our favorite episodes or notable episodes. But as I was thinking about this, I realized we just about already did that. We did a whole episode to it. We've got an episode of top 20. Well, not top, but most memorable 20 temple runs, because some were good, some were bad, some had something weird. So if you really are interested in some really very memorable temple runs, which all tie in with memorable episodes, go check that one out. By the time you've heard this, if you're watching on YouTube, boom, you saw the little tag on the top, so go click that and go to it. And I will also add this in the description if you're listening on a podcast app, so that way you can go check out those episodes. And we've done several episodes already with many of our guests, so just look up our name and Legends of the Hidden Temple if you're interested to hear some of these other episodes in depth.
Indeed, yeah. And as we mentioned here and there, we also did an episode battle with 2 Legends of the Hidden Temple episodes. Kristen was our guest, one of our guests for that, and we had a blast. So if any of you have any suggestions for what else you'd like to see us do with Legends of the Hidden Temple in terms of like podcast format, or if you want to see another episode battle where 2 go against each other, or maybe a Guts versus Legends episode, let us know in the comments. We're open to ideas, and it'll help us shape the road on this podcast journey.
And honestly, if you want to hear our opinion on the Legends of the Hidden Temple TV movie, let us know. If it's something that we can wait till later, great. But if there's enough interest, we'll move it up on the schedule. So if you genuinely want to hear our impressions of it, let us know.
Yeah. Lastly, I do want to mention a couple of crossovers for anyone who really likes to dive deep for Legends content. For any of you who like watching Robot Chicken on Adult Swim, you know that they already did a Nick Arcade version that we talked about in our 30th anniversary of Nick Arcade with Phil Moore. But they also did a sketch with Olmec and Kirk Fogg as well, with the dolls and everything, and kind of goes a little bit into some dark origins of how Olmec became integrated into this game show.
It's Robot Chicken. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that if you enjoy that type of humor. And there's also, surprisingly, a Nickelodeon connection, too, for any fan who loves The Loud House, which is pretty much, the second most running cartoon on Nickelodeon right now compared to SpongeBob, or the Sponge as he may not be named, as Alex would like to put it. They actually do a Temple Run episode where Lincoln Loud and his father are orange iguanas, and they compete against like this bully kid and his bully dad, who are the Silver Snakes, of course, because they are typically seen as the unofficial villain of the show. And they do a great tribute to it through their animation style of just running through all the games real quick, and even doing an animated version of the temple. So if you happen to see that, let us know what you think, and could give us some ideas for more unique Legends content on our podcast down the road. Alrighty, guys. Well, we haven't done this segment since season 3, but we're gonna bring it back just for the special occasion. It's called Guess That Artifact.
Guess that artifact.
So for Guess That Artifact, basically what it is I've handpicked various artifacts across Legends history to show for you tonight, and it's going to be like a kind of a guessing game where I give you 3 clues per artifact, and whoever buzzes in or raises their hand to guess which artifact it is from the show gets a point. And whoever has the most points at the end wins bragging rights. Or I can send you a box of nerds if you really want a consolation prize.
Saving bond.
Okay, so artifact 1. Here are the 3 clues to give you an idea of what it could be. Ring around the storeroom. Faster than a rattlesnake, this runner shattered records. An oversized animal piercing. Which artifact am I describing?
The ring of the ring of Babe. I think Babe the Ox or something like that.
You got it.
Oh,
Close enough.
okay.
Wow.
The enormous nose ring of Babe the Ox. And I put that one in there because it is the only example of a perfect temple run. No temple guard encounters, solo run by one guy, got out with over a minute left.
I think a temple guard got fired on that one, probably.
Yeah, sleeping on the job. It wasn't Mike though. I'm.
They were on
pretty sure
vacation.
that.
Oh no, it wasn't Mike. This was season 1, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so artifact 2. An African king trapped in an Egyptian tomb. A winding way through a snake's path to reach it. Unintended win. One of the fastest this animal has bolted through the temple.
King Tut's mask? I don't know.
On the right track.
It was like King Tut's staff or something like that. Snake
Nope.
staff.
Something created by my new friend Davey.
No. Maybe.
I don't know. Danny?
The Mask of Shaka Zulu.
That is correct. Okay, artifact 3. Which one is it? A body part immortalized in stone. Medusa's wrath defeated the king. A swampy trek to this room will net you the victory.
Medusa's eye?
Nope.
Oh, was it Medusa's head?
No, not quite. But it's part of the legend.
Medusa's snake?
Kirk Fogg snake?
I hope not.
Getting woozy.
Any other guesses?
Perseus's owl, maybe?
Nope. Both of you are close because it uses the Medusa legend. The answer is the stone head of the evil king, and they actually put the whole stone head in the swamp. Artifact 4. A Norse tale where cows are involved. A purple parrot who made her teammate proud. This cup is too big for me to drink out of.
Thor's goblet?
Nope.
Loki's chalice.
It is the milk bucket of Freydis. Okay, artifact 5. The key to getting this artifact requires some bifocals to see clearly. Move over, Tesla and Edison. This figure's scientific discovery was revolutionary. Take a seat and grab the artifact before the temple guard grabs the blue barracuda.
Is it Ben Franklin's kite?
So close. So close. Part of the kite.
Bifocals. His glass.
Nope.
Kite tail?
His
Nope.
spectacles.
The key.
The
Ben
key.
Franklin's key.
Malcolm
Mike.
got it. Ben Franklin's electrified key. Artifact 6. This artifact belongs in a wax museum. Couldn't hold Waterloo or his visage under hot quicksand bog lights. The silver monkey thwarted the orange iguanas from reaching the prize 2 rooms away.
William's hat.
On the right track.
Napoleon's hat.
On the right track. There's more to it than just the hat.
Is it the feather?
His uniform.
More.
Uniform.
Hat and
Napoleon's
feather are
sword.
involved. Nope.
Napoleon's uniform.
Nope.
Napoleon stepping stool.
I wish.
Or dead dude.
Napoleon's ulcer.
No. It is.
How to learn a French
Napoleon's
book
map?
from Napoleon.
Napoleon's name isn't in it, but the artifact is of Napoleon.
Oh. The
General's map.
French baguette.
Nope. It is the melted head of Madame Tussaud.
Oh.
Artifact 7. A terrible temple run, for it did the green monkeys dirty. It doesn't have my seal of approval. The owner of this artifact also had his own David the Gnome episode.
Perhaps is it the wax seal of Kirk's mom?
Wow. You were on the right track.
It's hers. You can't take it.
I remember
You're
the
on the
prop.
right track.
Yeah.
The wax seal of King Midas, maybe?
Nope. It's a Russian guy.
Rasputin.
Rasputin.
No.
Rasputin.
Sorry, Russian. Nicholas the First?
Nope.
Nicholas II.
Nicholas Cage.
No Nicholas.
Nicholas, my partner.
Ivan Drago. Ivan the Terrible.
Yes!
Oh!
The correct answer is the discarded seal of Ivan the Terrible, which was in the observatory. Artifact 8. I wouldn't shake his hand for a gift I wouldn't want to receive. Too gross. Found in Africa by chimpanzee, not in Egypt as one would suspect. Shiva's hand and arm looked better sitting in the bamboo forest.
Thick stickly.
Simmer down, y'all.
I almost wore my Stickly shirt tonight.
Is it the shriveled hand of someone?
Yes. Starts with an E.
There's nothing that 100 men or more can ever do.
You were close, Josh. I'll give you a half point.
About 52% of a point.
Yes. Okay. 66. It was the shriveled hand of Ifua. Okay, artifact 9. Almost there. Walk a mile in his shoes, or moccasins, I should say. An Apache's preferred footwear. A blue barracuda swam all the way to the Pirates' Cove to retrieve it and win the game for his team.
A.V. Crockett's moccasin.
Water moccasins of somebody, and I don't know the name.
I want to say Johnny Appleseed, but I don't think that's right.
No, that's the Mushpat helmet of Johnny
Thank
Appleseed.
you.
Moccasin of Sequoia, maybe?
On the right track. It's a Native American name.
I know it's not Pocahontas.
The moccasin of Crazy Horse?
Geronimo?
Yes! The moccasins of Geronimo.
Dang.
Nice.
Okay, last artifact. I'm seeing orange in a green room. A few holes at the end of her route. Kirk thought she had it, but she didn't. A most unfortunate letdown.
The golden pepperoni of Catherine Deninci.
No. Although that was a disappointing...
It was. Get the pepperoni!
So you went right past it.
Mulan's firework, right?
No. Okay. It is the Blue Pearl of the Dragon Lady. Yeah. Tallying up the points, it looks like Manny... Oh, I'll say everyone's points. Josh got half a point. Mike got...
This guy.
Mike got 1 point. And Manny and Malcolm each got 2 points. So you're both winners.
Wow.
High five!
Yeah.
Mike caught you all at the temple, so you don't get to go to Busch Gardens.
So we get packing gear.
Same feeling I had at the bottom of the steps of knowledge.
Yeah. You'll get your box of nerds in the mail next week.
You get to keep your T-shirt.
Oh.
And that is why we never do Guess That Artifact ever again. But it sounds like we're all exhausted from taping 5 shows a day on the Legends Nickelodeon Studios set. So let's go get some Bigfoot pizza in the green room and call it a night. Our closing question for today's episode is, what do you remember most fondly about watching Legends of the Hidden Temple growing up, Slimesters? Write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com. DM us on Instagram as well at Splatattack Podcast. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Splatattack Podcast. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so every little bit helps if you want to hit that subscribe button and share with your friends who also love Legends of the Hidden Temple. Or you can just interact with us wherever you find us on social media. We're mostly on Instagram and YouTube, but we have a little bit of a Twitter, Facebook presence. Definitely on Patreon if you want to check that out as well, because our episode battle with Kristen between the jewel-encrusted egg of Catherine the Great and the levitating dog leash of Nostradamus is over there, and it's a lot of fun. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Legends of the Hidden Temple. We appreciate having you here and just reliving a lot of these nostalgic memories of how the show came to be and the special meaning that still resonates in our hearts today.
It's a pleasure to see all of you, and we appreciate you guys, everyone that's part of the show.
Wavy Davy, good job, man.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to just really congratulate you guys on, putting a spotlight on cultural things. These are, you're kind of historians and social studies work going on here. It's good work.
All right, guys. Well, I think it's time that we're going to head on out then and close the temple doors until another season of Splat Attack. Until then, Alex, will you scrape the slime off the wall for us, please? I've got to construct a new floor on the hidden temple to make it adult-sized. Will you search for some contestants to be on our show while I put the finishing touches on Olmec and Kirk?
I go, Captain. I'm sure our guests and their friends would love to do a test run once it's all done. Just make sure that you don't skimp on the construction materials.
Oh, don't worry. I've learned a few things from my father in the construction business, and also our guest, Wavy Davy. This temple will be solid as a rock.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. I think I broke Olmec.
You
Oh
were
no,
saying,
it looks like he broke Olmec. Is he okay? Is his mouth moving all right?
you were saying.
I guess I forgot to put the screws in. Oh well. Welcome to Wienerville. I mean, spot you later. I better start from scratch.
Olmec is not going to be pleased about this. Bye, Slimesters.
Don't worry, Olmec. I'll be getting you back in shape in no time.
You'd better, or I'll throw you to the temple guards.
No,
There's
please
one
don't.
hiding in a tree as we speak.
Barracudas. I can't call it. Blue Barracudas are ahead now. All right, these two teams will be going on to the temple game soon. Is to get your accuracy down. Whoa, the Red Jaguars scored. It's a dead heat so far as they travel. Uh-oh, I think somebody's got ahead a little bit here. Themselves along, but they got to do it quickly. Oh, you got to make sure that cloth's on. Oh, nice job by the Orange Iguanas, but it went right in. Green Monkeys just scored. Yeah, she got it. She got it. She